I like magical girls. Seriously, Sailor Moon is one of my favorite things. While there are plenty of good magical girl anime, I always felt there was untapped potential for magical girl games. There aren't many of them, even in visual novels. That's why Dead End Aegis caught my eye. A magical girl visual novel with a dark twist? Sign me up. For those unaware, Dead End Aegis is a visual novel released by Metalog Ick that got an English translation in early 2022 by Jest. In the story, humanity is under siege by alien invaders called the Cosmic Cenarians, or just the CC for short. They are these tentacle monstrosities that can't be reasoned with, and conventional weaponry is useless against. The only thing that seems to be able to hurt them are magical girls, which will only become a thing as a result of the war of the CC. The protagonist, Minori Izuka, dreams of becoming a magical girl because she was saved by the original magical girl trio as a child. However, being a magical girl might not be like what she envisioned. She is sent to the Cathedral, a military base in space located near the CC origin point, known as Paradise Lost. Turns out becoming a magical girl entails being violated by the CC, something not known to the general populace, or even the recruits. Few survive this process, and this is just the beginning of the grim reality of being a magical girl. Worse yet, the strength of a magical girl is linked to their sexual development, an excuse given for less than savory activities to be done to them by the male personnel of the Cathedral. Now, the premise might sound a bit silly, but it takes itself with 100% seriousness, and has a surprising amount of depth. It covers a variety of themes, like the dehumanization of soldiers in war, sexism in the military, whether humans are even worthy of salvation, and the idea of keeping hope, even in the darkest situations. The scathing critique of the military-industrial complex and capitalism. It's very blunt with these things and how evil portrays the people in power. I remembered how evil real politicians are, so I can't fault it for being true to life. Despite these dark themes, it's still true to the themes of classic magical girl anime, with a great emphasis placed on the friendship between the three main girls and true love. Despite how dark it can get, there's always some shreds of hope, and Minami can find solace in knowing that she is not alone. It's a welcome relief. Stories can come off as comical when they try too hard to be dark and have nothing but tragedy, but Dead End Aegis never has this problem. Now I can see some people making some comparisons to Muv-Luv because of the War of Aliens, but those similarities are surface level. If anything, both of them just take inspiration from Starship Troopers. The movie, not so much the book, especially Dead End Aegis and how it portrays the military and propaganda. The structure is interesting. There are two main routes, a happy route where almost everything goes right for the protagonist, and a longer, more tragic route. Both offer immensely satisfying conclusions, but I must say I prefer the second route. It felt more thematically appropriate, having the characters suffer but try their best to overcome their hardships, answering every question the audience may have, and still managing to be uplifting. There's also a very short dead end you can get if you choose incorrectly early on, which only gives you a tentacle CG. The atmosphere of the cathedral feels crushing. It's so far away from Earth. There's nowhere the girls can turn to for help or any way to escape. The way the girls are treated gets gradually worse as the story goes on. It starts off pretty bad, but the normalization of the abuse only makes the men bolder. The fact that the girls also have to contend with the skirmishes against the CC with frequent casualties only makes it worse. The thing that impressed me was the world building. There's much talk about science fiction concepts, but also politics. There's a whole subplot about the political tensions between Earth and the Moon settlement that reminded me a bit of Turn A Gundam. There's a fairly small cast of characters, but I think they all serve their role in the story well. Minori is the protagonist, and is a typical idealistic but somewhat naive girl. She struggles with coming to terms with her ideals against the reality of the situation she's in. She also grapples with extremely low self-esteem, often putting herself down when comparing herself to others. She has really good character development. Seeing her have to deal with the difficult situation she's in is always interesting. She does everything in her power to fight against the system, but it rarely ends up working in her favor. She's being pushed to her physical and mental breaking point constantly, making the audience question how long she can last like this. Despite all the cruelty she endures, she wants to protect humanity, and most of all, her friends. Ilyusha Petronova is her friend and the best of the main trio. He's a Russian former idol group member, probably the smartest of the group, and has gone through a lot of hardship even before coming to the cathedral, which has made her adept at surviving. Nana Kisaragi is the third of the main girls. He's the most airheaded and frequently goes on about her boyfriend on Earth, even in bizarre situations. Besides the main girls, there are some surprisingly engaging side characters. Captain Kinison is my favorite of them. He looks like a typically ugly bastard out of some doujin at first glance, but that appearance hides a very complex character. He's the man put in charge of the cathedral and the training for the magical girls. He sees them as tools necessary to defeating the CC, but doesn't take any pleasure from the sexual training the girls are subjected to. He believes it's needed to make them strong enough so they don't die in battle, so he allows the soldiers in Cathedral to assault them. He may have somewhat noble intentions in genuinely wanting to protect humanity, but he's still just a cog in the military that allows the systematic abuse of magical girls. Not every character is as nuanced, like Callaghan, who is just a racist, sexist prick, but even he has small shreds of humanity that can make him believable, and he serves his role as a character the audience is supposed to hate well. I already spoke of how I love magical girls, but another reason Dead End Aegis caught my interest was the director and artist, Ueda Mitao. I am familiar with them because they did the art for Sadistic Blood, a Guru VN that also got an English release by Jazz in 2020, but they're more well known in Japan for directing the cult classic visual novel, Gore Screaming Show. I had some fun with Sadistic Blood, but it was quite short and mostly comprised of H scenes. One thing that did stick with me from it was how striking the art was. I was curious to see if the scenes would get as beautifully grotesque as the ones found in Sadistic Blood. The character art is fantastic. I'm fond of how Mitao draws eyes. They're very expressive and perfectly convey happiness and distraught expressions when needed. There's plenty of CGs, although a majority of them are for H scenes. I wish there was more normal CGs, but all the magical girl transformation CGs are superb. The outfits for them are really cool, especially for Lee Kansu. As for the content of the Euro scenes themselves, there's tons of rape and not exactly consensual sex, but it's pretty vanilla by my standards. I've heard it compared to likes of Euphoria and Maggot Bates, but it doesn't nearly reach those levels of sexual horror. It is somewhat similar to Euphoria in atmosphere, but the content of Euro scenes are extremely tame in comparison. There's only a handful of tentacle scenes and they're painfully short. There's one scene that can maybe be considered girl-like, but it's so brief you hardly see anything. I can say that these scenes do serve a narrative and thematic purpose, so I think it's worth trying even for people not usually into that kind of thing. They aren't as annoyingly frequent and don't feel like they interrupt the story like the other two I just mentioned. The presentation of the battles is pretty impressive. There's a lot of cut-ins and effects that make them feel like insane space battles. The translation deserves mention for being pretty great. Text flows very well and there were some inspired decisions. In the end, Dead End Aegis is a visual novel that not only met my expectations but exceeded them. It excels at being a magical girl and science fiction story. I greatly enjoyed my time with it and would recommend it to anyone wanting an experience with grime and darkness or just magical girl fans. You can find it on the Just website as well as on Steam, completely uncensored. I don't know how Just managed it when Steam bans anime games for seemingly no reason. I'm glad they managed it. Now, astute observers may notice that there's a Dead End Aegis Gaiden, available completely for free. Gaiden is a prequel story about the original magical girl trio that lasts an hour or two. It was released after the original game, so you don't need to read it to understand the main game. In fact, I didn't until afterwards. It does set the stage and foreshadow some things in the main game. Personally, I feel like going to Dead End Aegis blind without the information from Gaiden is the way to go. The way it deliberately gives information slowly is kind of lost when you already know some things from Gaiden. However, Gaiden is free while the main game costs money, so I can see why people might want to try it first to see if they want to read it. That's it for my thoughts for Dead End Aegis. Be sure to read it, and thanks for watching.